Gang, this is Elizabeth Hale. I am giving you a very quick screencast video of continuing how to find a high-res, large, physically large image for to fit on a 17 by 11 inch background. You've probably tried Google a couple of times, more than a couple. It's frustrating. It's difficult because in our process, it often says that the image is large enough, and when you open it in Photoshop, indeed it is not. So I'm sending you to a website. Hopefully at this point it's still going to be maintained. Remember, this website could change. It's called unsplash.com. It's unsplash.com. I've zoomed into it here. It's very simple to work. You come up, it opens up with a search field where the magnifying glass is. We are going to type in, a search term. We're going to put in the word textures. And I'm just adding 20 megapixels because that was the size we were looking for in Google. Remember, that means that is the resolution size that we're, not resolution, but the image size that we're hoping to find. We're going to, fingers crossed, we're going to hit the return button and see what those search image results are. And here you can see it's saying textures, 20 megapixel images. There's a bunch to choose from. I'm just going to randomly grab one of them. I'm going to click on this kind of abstract wall that looks like an eroded plaster. And what happens is you've got the photographer's name at the bottom, and then there's an arrow on the right-hand side here with a downturned arrow. Click on that. It's going to always come up with a message saying, "Can you please credit my photograph?" We don't have to because we're doing this for a student exercise, but if you were using this for anything else, you would definitely have to credit it, possibly pay for this image. It's just allowing us to play with it. And you want to be aware of the fact that this photographer wants the credit. Now I'm going to go to my download area, my download folder, which on the Mac is down on my dock. On your laptop it might be different. I'm going to open it up in the Finder, and I can see I actually have downloaded this more than a couple of times by just talking to you. That's something you should know, that when there's a parentheses and it says 1, 2, but the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, that means you've actually done it a couple of times, and it's just a duplication of the image. I'm going to trash those right now. But here's that image. For me, I'm just going to bring it down and open it up in my Photoshop. You want to open it in Photoshop. You do not want to open it in Preview, which it might default to. So don't just double click on it, but make sure you're opening it through Photoshop. The first thing we're going to do, by now you should know this as a drill, is Control-Alt-I or Command-Option-I on the Mac. It brings up the image size dialog window, and if you notice on mine, the resample button has a check mark next to it. I'm going to uncheck that, so there is no check mark, and all I'm going to do is change the resolution from 72 pixels per inch to 300 pixels per inch. And notice what happens with the dimensions, meaning the width and the height. They've gone down in dimension size, and that's exactly what happens. As the resolution goes up, the physical size goes down. But we're still good, because if you look, the height is 20 inches and the width is 13.33, and that seems okay to me. Now, you're probably asking, well, wait a second. It's supposed to be 11 inches high and 17 inches wide. Do I change this here? You do not change this here. This image has been downloaded as a vertical portrait image, but let's think about it. It's abstract. It doesn't matter, really, because it has no visual logical content, what the orientation is. So we can rotate this whole image to be the landscape orientation. So I'm going to say, okay. And then to do that, to rotate the entire image, you go up to Image, you go to Image Rotation, and you're just going to go to 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, however you see fit. Doesn't make any difference. You can switch that again. And now we have, if I'm going to go to Command-Option-I again, or Control-Alt-I, we have an image that is 20 inches wide by 13. So all it did was it just flipped it. It rotated it 90 degrees. Now to get it a little bit closer in size, so we're not wasting pixels here, we want it to be fairly close to our target size. Now we click Resample On. And now we don't pay any attention to the resolution, and we only change one of the dimensions. And we make sure that the proportion bracket, this thing, is clicked on. And let's just change this to 17 and see what happens. And look at that. It's exactly 17 by 11. That's kind of amazing. And we're just going to say OK. Now we're going to save our image by going to Save As. I'm going to rename this because I don't really know who the photographer and everything might be confusing to me. I'm going to change the name to Abstract Wall. And then I use BKGRND as a background, background acronym. And I'm going to save it as a PSD, a Photoshop document. I'm going to put it in a folder I've already created called background images or sized images. Oh, and I'm also going to add the number somewhere in there. I usually put in the number 300, which tells me that I have sized this at 300 pixels per inch, so I know it is ready to go, and I'm going to say save. That's all you need to do. I want you to practice this because some of these images will not be correct. If they're not big enough, don't use them. Go look for another one. That's the lesson. I know it's a little bit frustrating, but you're going to be doing this throughout the entire quarter. So it is really important for you to practice this. Bring these images in, if you'd like, on a USB drive for class. The assignment was really just to practice this whole process, and we're going to review everything we did last week so that you can indeed do assignment number 1. Okay? That's all. See you